right, well, Gage, so playing Dracula has been a lifelong dream of yours. Why was it this lifelong dream for you to portray Dracula?
As soon as I read the book, Dracula, I thought there was something in the character that was profoundly compelling. I think Dracula is, although it's a supernatural character, he's really saying something about the human experience, which is if you supplant an addiction to blood with an addiction to alcohol or heroin or sex, you can see that those are human issues that people contend with, and then you factor in eternal life or an eternal undead experience. You're going to get your heart broken time and time again and be betrayed, and I think that's something people can also relate to. So it's a very, although supernatural, is a very human kind of character.
Something far more deeper than the spooky element of it.
I am Dracula.
Okay, obviously we're dealing with a little bit more than just narcissism here.
Yeah, well, I think as actors we're always looking for the connection that makes it feel authentic, that we can tap into, so we're not feeling like we're acting, we're feeling like we're being.
What were some of the appearances, the mannerisms, the characteristics that your Dracula had to have?
I think that in terms of the look, I was extremely interested in Christopher Lee's appearance as Dracula, my personal favorite Dracula in the Hammer horror films. I loved the way he had that 60s hairdo and the way he dressed. In terms of influences in my own life, and I don't mean this in a negative way, my father, August Coppola, he was always the smartest man of any room he walked in, and he knew it, and he made sure we knew it, and I thought the way he spoke, he had this mid-Atlantic accent, and he spoke with distinction, you see, Nicolas, and I thought, okay, that's perfect, because he's a literature professor, and this Dracula should sound like him.
Oh my gosh, this had to be just a satisfying character for you to portray.
It was very satisfying.
I mean, you nailed it, man.
Well, thank you.
From the look to the walk, the talk.
I need your assistance.
I'm coming, master!
What was it like being on the receiving end of Cage's Dracula, Hoult?
Oh, it was truly magical. I mean, it made me giddy at many times because I was like, I'm getting to be on set, have a front row seat to see Nicolas Cage play Dracula, which is like, that's a once in a lifetime, and I'm so excited for people to get to see it because it's truly iconic in every way.
Well, you two Nicks go toe to toe. I mean, you're bringing it as well, but you know, Dracula here is a horrible, terrible, just downright awful boss.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest.
Yeah, the emotional core of this story is what we were both drawn to, this toxic, codependent relationship. That, you know, they obviously in the past did have good times together,
right.
But when we meet them in this story, it's 100 years on from the classic Dracula story, and they have grown to this place where Dracula knows how to manipulate and love bomb and trick Renfield, but Renfield is also someone who has made all these mistakes on his own and has to come to terms with that and is living with a lot of regret.
The psychological game he's playing with you is
Very
unreal,
good.
and then you know, you were reciting these affirmations to yourself to get through some
his self-worth, he has to regain that.
I know, but it also brought a sense of comedy as well, you know, in those heavier, kind of gory moments. But going back to horrible bosses, what is a horrible, terrible boss story that you might have?
Oh, you've got quite a
Do you have some?
Well, I won't mention any names, but yeah, I was on a certain production, and I remember I was in a very dramatic moment, and I was pounding on a glass in a certain hospital, and the glass broke, and I cut my hand. I was with my co-star, and the director said, "Now you two are gonna have a bit more discipline if you expect me to get through this movie without losing my temper." I thought, well, that's a good model for Dracula, and I tried to use that line. I did use that line in the scene with the Picasso student. Now, you're gonna have a bit more discipline. I kept trying to bring it back, but I'm not mentioning any names. The thing about narcissistic bosses and people in sociopathic relationships, the sociopath is always a master of the bait and switch. Like throw out the kindness and then switch and knock him dead, you know, and I think Dracula is a maestro of that.
Oh, without a doubt, like the master manipulator of doing just
Yes.
that, without a doubt. Now, do you have a terrible boss story there, Hoult?
I've been pretty fortunate that most of my bosses have been very kind and given good environments to work in, but there's definitely been a few that have shouted, had jobs and being on set. I think everyone always performs better when they're feeling valued and like they're having fun and it's a safe environment. So luckily we're seeing less and less of it nowadays, I think.
Yeah.
Good.
And this director, Chris McKay, really fostered that feeling of creativity and feeling free to bring ideas and collaboration.
Well, it is seen on the screen, that is for sure.
I will no longer tolerate abuse. I deserve happiness.
Let me explain something to you, okay? You deserve only suffering.
Nicholas Hoult's character has to eat bugs to gain power. So what are you really eating on set, Nick? Is it the real deal, something fake?
It depends on the day. Like the cockroaches were actually just made of caramel, so
Okay,
they were
okay,
actually
ooh.
quite delicious. The worms were gummy worms, and they were in crushed up Oreo biscuit to
Really?
make the fake earth. So those again were delicious. But on the real bug days, it was mainly crickets. Which again, they were kind of dried and then flavored. There was salt and vinegar and smoky bacon flavor. And so again,
Savory.
pretty delicious. You'd have little bits get stuck in your teeth, but it was fine.
Did you ever try some? Okay.
No.
No.
My bug eating days are long gone.
Yeah, and you were, I guess, partial to blood. I
Right,
guess, right?
indeed. Which
was
Blood's
quite
your
sweet.
jam.
Very sweet, like a caro syrup, a kind of like a thick sugar-based molasses, although red. Yeah, sticky, very sticky.
Oh, the movie magic, right?
Yeah.
Paige, you've had some iconic roles. You can add this one to the list.
Thank
What
you.
is a line or lines that are recited to you most from your fans?
Oh, well, I guess from the longest time, from back from Moonstruck, I would walk through the airport and people just had a habit of saying,
Snap out of it!
snap out of it. I did get slapped a few times.
No, you did not.
Oh, yeah, I did. And that's okay. It's part of the job.
Humbles the old ego, right?
Correct.
At what point does someone think it's okay to slap you and do that?
You know,
I mean, although the commitment.
Right?
Yeah, I think maybe I'll cast them in something. Who knows?
Or do you have a particular favorite line that you've delivered from a past character?
This here jacket is a symbol of my individuality and my belief in personal freedom. That was from Wild at Heart.
Did I ever tell you that this here jacket represents a symbol of my individuality and my belief in personal freedom?
Nick, you're currently in production on another blood-sucking feature film, correct?
Yes, on Nosferatu, yeah.
Nosferatu. Have you been hit by the old vampire bug?
I suppose I have. I mean, this was obviously a reinterpretation of these characters and a completely new, original idea that was so exciting. Nosferatu is a remake of the classic film, but also it's very exciting because Robert Eggers is directing. He's one of my favorite directors at the moment. I think he's just incredible with what he creates. So it's going well, and hopefully people like this interpretation of it.
Well, you guys work your magic in this film in particular.
Thank you.
Very fun ride.
Hey.
Very fun interpretation of
It is
this.
a ride, yeah.